Hello and welcome everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. Remember, this is not a sport. You don't play fight. My boy Ian Garry came out and almost put on a master class over Gabe Green. And Green is scary and has power in both hands, so I'm very impressed by that. I will say that Garry had his back against the cage, way too much for my comfort. We need to see him make some improvements on his forward pressure and lateral movement and relieving the pressure of his opponents. He's going to have to get better at circling out and knowing when to press forward and threaten with something so he can circle back out and get his back off that cage. He's good about his head movement and his defense, but it drastically limits your options on the back foot when your back's against the cage like that. Someone of a higher caliber of striking might find the shot and set some traps that Garry might run into. He's young and he knows he has to keep evolving, so this is just something that I'd like to see from him. He was using his inside leg kicks well to open up the stance of Green, and he was using those opportunities to make his escape from the pressure. This was nice to see. Gabe Green did a good job at not just headhunting early with Garry. He was getting him work to the body while he had Garry worried about the strikes to the head, and his back was against the cage. We're going to see more things like this if Garry keeps his back to the cage moving forward in his career. Green liked to parry the jab and slip his head off to the left as a form of defense to get out of the way of Garry's jab. So Garry adjusted by tossing out the one to get Green to parry early and have that straight right where Green kept leaning his head to. These are good reads from Garry for him being so young. The speed and fluidity that Garry has when mixing up his boxing with his kicks really had me going. At the end of that first round, Garry had a beautiful combo of a 1, 2, 1, feint the 2 to the head kick. He utilizes a 1-2 often, but he does it well, and he mixes in the special techniques just here and there. He sprinkles them in. His head kicks are going to be a problem, especially for the shorter fighters in the division, especially people who like to do work to the body and who like to go for takedowns and like to dip in when they're coming forward. They're so smooth, and he does a great job at not telegraphing them, and he likes to put them behind stuff too, which is amazing. I feel like it's too often that we don't see people putting their kicks behind their combination. Just tag the kick on at the end. Don't just throw open kicks unless you can clearly see that there's a hole in their defense around specific kicking techniques that you're using. Look for some head kick knockouts in the future of Ian Garry, guys. He didn't get it in this one, but man, there was a few times where he was really close. When they were clinching, Garry gets a hook around the left leg of Green. He gets a nice inside trip. Now we're starting to see him as a fighter rather than a striker. When things do hit the mat after the trip, Garry makes a couple of key adjustments in that scrambling phase to actually gain full mount. A little sprinkle of BJJ on display from Garry here. Green did a good job at getting out of the sticky situation and actually gets Garry's back. From there, Green weaves his hook through Garry's legs, and he hooks it along the outside of Garry's right leg. This is a strong technique, but damn, dude, credit to Garry for staying composed and clearing that hook by swinging that leg out wide. That was incredible. I'm so surprised he didn't get pulled into back control right there. Garry also did a good job at throwing those knees up the middle to put it into Green's heads to not dip down too much and put too much work into the body or shoot for those takedowns. He showed it all throughout the fight and even landed a good couple of times. He's going to need this tool against some of the stronger wrestlers in the division. Garry got a knockdown in that third round with his pull and strike technique that he uses, where he'll feint or throw, pull, feint or throw again, pull, then throw. He's long and he's fast, man, and he uses it. There were too many times we saw his back against the cage, but it is hard against a guy like Gabe Green, who's just a tank. However, one really bad habit of Garry is his tendency to square up when he's feeling too heavily pressured and against the cage. He makes himself a bigger target to the body and the head, and also gives a bigger opening for a strong wrestler. He needs to break himself of this one, man. All in all, it was a great performance by Ian Garry. He came out there better than last time, and he's showing that he's young and willing to evolve. Fun fights for him in the future would be, I could see a good fight with Li Jingliang, Tim Means, Nicholas Dalby would be a good one. Honestly, he can fight anyone at this point. The UFC need to take their time with him and not throw him in there with the monsters quite yet. I mean, he's only 24. Damn, it'll seem random for me to say this, but John Jones was 24 when he became champion. That's just crazy to put into perspective. Sure, his division was stacked with a bunch of the previous generational fighters, But still, dude, he was a champion at 24 years old. And here I am saying that Garry shouldn't fight top guys yet. Random thought there. But hell yeah, our Irish prospect came through and delivered yet again. With that, I'll go ahead and wrap things up. If you like the content we're providing, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you disagree with our picks, make sure to berate us down in the comments below. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can even follow me personally on Twitter. Remember, this is not a sport. If you don't play, fight.